Welcome back, everybody. Today we will be discussing the Jordan 1 Mocha once again. Specifically, we'll be discussing whether you should sell or hold the Jordan 1 Dark Mocha and why that is. To preface this, if you guys enjoy these types of videos regarding the market, reselling, and even info on how to acquire these limited products, be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications just so you're 100% updated. Furthermore, for more urgent updates like shock drops, raffles, site lists, follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10, and also personals for you. This way, you're always in the loop 24/7 whenever there is a restock or drop. For those who don't know, the Jordan 1 Dark Mocha drops October 31st for $170 in men and $130 in grade school. Regarding how to get these, I actually made a video on how to cop these not too long ago, so if you haven't already, be sure to check that out so you guys could get your hands on these for retail. In order to determine if the Jordan 1 Dark Mocha will be a fruitful hold, we will cover an estimated range of what the sneaker will settle at after the drop, and also when shipments come in, essentially the pairs going into circulation, whether they're expected to increase post-drop or even hypothetically decrease, along with how much specifically over that specific period of time, and finally, what type of margin are we looking at for these in terms of holding. Not the retail to resell initial margin, but rather just a hold margin over X period of time. Kicking it off, let's discuss the estimated range that these should settle at in men and grade school sizes. To begin with, stock for all sizes combined worldwide is quite significant at 280,000 pairs. However, the absurd amount of demand that we're seeing certainly compensates for that and some more too. The primary reason these are in such high demand is because the colorway is extremely reminiscent of the Travis Scott Jordan 1. The Dark Mocha Jordan 1 is often even intentionally referred to as the poor man's Travis Scott Jordan 1. This is quite common with similar colorways, such as the rapid increase in price on the Jordan 1 UNC following the drop of the off-white Jordan 1 UNC in 2018. So it's quite evident that these are certainly going to be very profitable with a pretty good margin in men and grade school sizes both, despite the relatively high stock for a Jordan. Now, regarding a specific range, we'll first continue to see a decline in value as we approach the drop on the 31st. The data you see on the screen today is currently from October 26th. So by the time you watch this video on October 27th, or potentially even later than that, it'll be even lower than what you see now. Over the past 10 days, they have decreased an average of 19 to 23% on average, depending on the size, which is essentially just an average rate we should see with any Jordan 1 in high demand in general. Nothing abnormal here. The decrease isn't linear though, which is worth noting. So over the next week, leading up to the drop, we'll see less of a drop in price, but still a slight noticeable drop nonetheless. We should see the men sitting at around 275 to 295 depending on the sizes. As always, smaller sizes do go for more than the larger sizes. And now as for grade school pairs, the amount that they've been decreasing by was just marginally less, around 16 to 20% on average, which again is just pretty normal for grade school Jordan 1s. Therefore, prior to the drop, we should see these sit around $245 to $265, somewhere in that range. Keep in mind, this is not what they are expected to settle at post-drop. This is pre-drop. Post-drop, we will experience what I like to refer to as the impulsivity effect. Sneaker drops specifically impact human impulsiveness significantly after an individual fails to acquire that desired product due to insufficient supply and too much demand. Therefore, on average, we normally see a 10% increase of pre-drop prices post-drop. This isn't always the case, but majority of the time it is, and should be the case on these as well. During the morning of the 31st, after all drops occur, until late afternoon and in the evening as well, we should see a pretty solid premium price for these. Assuming a 10% increase does occur, men's sizes should sit at around $300 to $325 on average. Numbers aside, I can personally see them going for slightly lower than that, strictly from anecdotal experience, but regardless, you guys get the gist of it. Even if it's $20 off or so, it won't be a significant difference. You guys get the point. Now, keep that number in mind because we'll be revisiting that number when discussing the most optimal times to sell at. Now let's discuss what prices will look like once shipments go out in the 1 to 2 week range. During this period, the vast majority of pairs will be going into circulation aside from the minimal amount of in-store pairs and early pairs. Considering the stock is quite immense on these, this will certainly have a drastic effect. but nothing to concern over, of course. Comparing these to other recent hype Jordan 1s like the Biohacks, Royal Toes, Court Purples, etc. with lower stock, I would expect these to revert back to the price to what they were selling at pre-drop, aside from that 10% post-drop increase, and potentially even slightly less than that. So that was $275 to $295 on average for men, and $245 to $265 on average for grade school. Keep in mind, some sizes will definitely be more and some will definitely be less. That's just the expected average price range. Now that the average price ranges at those points in time are evident, let's discuss whether they're expected to increase post-drop or even hypothetically decrease, along with how much specifically over a specific period of time. Traditionally, Jordan 1s in men's and grade school with high demand almost always tend to increase in value. The one exception is when a sneaker is overvalued, creating a bubble. This is what we saw with the satin Jordan 1. Many people were overvaluing it, which was quite rational at the time due to the prior satin releases, hence they didn't have much room to increasing at all when they did initially resell at that high premium price. When prices did plateau, that's when they began to fall slightly after that. I do not expect this to be the case with these. In fact, quite the contrary. Due to the high stock, we'll be seeing a significant amount of quick sellers. Additionally, the resale price really isn't that high, leaving more than sufficient room for these to increase over time, unlike the satins. Hence, you should expect these to increase. Specifically, I'm not expecting a rapid increase though. In fact, for the first several months, we should see these plateau for a little while. Essentially, no significant changes whatsoever. However, I do estimate that within 6 to 8 months, we'll begin to see a gradual increase of about 5% each month from there, and since they'll be increasing by a percentage, this amount won't be linear, which will be a good thing, of course, for those of you who decide to hold pairs. Finally, regarding the hold margin on these, essentially the price that you could have gotten versus the hold price in, say, 12 to 14 months hypothetically, it's not too bad at all. Compared to something like the Off-White Jordan 5, it should be significantly better, considering those didn't move much proportionally. Just to provide an example, which is what I actually discussed in one of my prior videos that I'll bring up a little later. I do not expect the margin on these to be as good as the type of margin you'll see on the sneakers I mentioned in that video I was just talking about though, and that's not just because these won't increase a lot, but rather it's because you can't get much for those right now. Meanwhile, after a drop for these Mocha Jordan 1s, you'll be able to get a pretty impressive amount. In conclusion, no, it's not the best margin you'll be seeing, but it's certainly not a bad one, and it's one of the better long-term holds in general, if you had to choose a hype sneaker at least. But again, I would suggest checking out that other video for the most productive holds statistically, highly suggested. Personally, I'll be holding a fair amount of these. I know that there are better margins out there on other different types of products, specifically the ones that I did mention in that video I was just referring to on some other products, but I do have sufficient room to hold a solid amount of these too, and I don't need the capital right now, so I'm just going to put them in my basement and forget about them for 12 to 16 months. Then I'll go back to check on them, see what the rate of increase is at, and if they begin to plateau, then I'll let them go. If they are still increasing at a pretty decent rate, then I'll keep holding. Now, whether you should hold or sell at X time is highly dependent on your personal capital. First, you should never hold anything if you don't have sufficient capital to go for as many drops as you possibly could at your full potential and without holding back. If you need money to go for all drops, I would suggest trying to sell these the morning of the drop, since you can't hold them long term in that case. If you do need to quick sell these, selling them right after the drop, same day, is most optimal. StockX requires you to ship within 2 days, so unless you do get shipments by then or have in-store pairs, you'll have to list on eBay with the 30-day handling option. Now, on the other hand, if you do have plenty of capital to sit on, multiple different shoes and holds for extended periods of time like myself for a long-term investment, which is why you likely clicked on this video, then I'd suggest holding these. Don't fear the temporary dip, because that will occur after the post-drop increase. They will eventually surpass that dip, the initial amount, and even more than that. It will take time though. Patience and confidence is absolutely key. But anyway, good luck on this drop as it does approach, or if the drop already occurred when you're watching this video, leave a comment down below if you actually took a W or L, because I am curious to hear on how you guys do perform. Feel free to leave a like if you did enjoy or perhaps learn a thing or two. Also, subscribe and enable post notifications just to stay 100% updated on any hype sneaker. And remember, if you guys do need proxies or Nike sneakers accounts, be sure to check the links in the description for TARS and kit proxies. And of course, follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10, and personals for you, so you could always stay 100% updated on everything. And most importantly, don't forget that the limited endurance restock will take place on November 1st, Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. With that, I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Get that big foot away from me. Get your foot on my foot. Ah. Why you hurting me with your foot? Can't you find somewhere else to keep it put? Get your foot on my foot.